Welcome to Test Prep CA9 Part 1 Question 2. The question says, to find out if there is a relationship between angry students and hours of homework assigned, Mr. Sims assigned ever-increasing homework over the course of 2 months. The table below shows the results. Which graph represents the data below? Why are the others wrong? So once again, we're trying to find out which graph represents a set of data that we are given, which is basically right here. So I have these different homework assignments that were given, and those aren't actually anywhere on the graph. You won't see A, B, C, or D, or E, or whatever. But what you will see is hours of homework assigned and the number of angry students. So one of those belongs on the x-axis, and obviously that's going to be the hours of homework assigned because that's the one that causes the angry students. So the one that causes something tends to be put on the x-axis since that's our input. So hours of homework assigned, 50. When it's 50 hours of homework, we have 14 angry students. So let's look for something that looks like 50 and 14. So when 50 hours of homework are given, we have 14 angry students, which is about right there. Now, that point there looks just a little bit below 15, so I'm betting that is in fact 14. So this looks like a possibility based on that first data point, but in fact, all of these that we look at have a similar data point here. So that point didn't actually help us out. So what I'm going to do to try and speed up the process a little bit is I'm going to look at where do these graphs look very, very different. So that's going to help me rather than going through every single one of these points. That could actually take a really long time. So what you want to do is you want to see what point do these graphs here have that are all different. You know, if you can find a point that's different in most of them, then the good news is 1 or 2 points can tell you which graph is correct. So let's go ahead and look. I like this point here. This point is quite different than this point here on the graph. And it even looks a little bit different than, no, actually it looks pretty much the same in the other graphs. There, it looks like it's between 35 and 40 in all those graphs there, so maybe 37. So let's go ahead and look for, that's when the number of hours is equal to 150. So when the number of hours is equal to 150, I should see a value of about maybe 37 or so. So when 150, I have a value of 38. Okay, so that point looks correct on all the graphs. It looks correct on this graph. It looks correct on this graph because this looks like about 38. This one here looks like it's about 38 for this point. Okay, this one here looks like it's about 38 for this point. And this graph here looks like it's about 28. Not 38. So this graph here, in my opinion, is out. Once again, when I look at 150, which is this data point here, when I look at 150, I should see a value of 38, which is up here. But instead, this point here, which I just covered up, that point there is actually about 28. So that tells me it's not 38, but it's 28. So this graph is out. All right, I'm just going to clean that up a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, so one graph down. The good news is if I were to guess now, instead of having a 25% chance, I'd still have a 33.3% chance, which is a lot better in terms of odds. But I bet you I can narrow it down even further. Looking at these graphs here, well, we're looking at these two graphs here. Let's see. These points here tend to be the same in both of them. They look the same pattern-wise. This one here also looks the same. This one here also looks the same. This one here also looks the same. And this one here also looks the same. That's right, this one here. But this one changes. At 400, it changes. On this graph, it looks like it might be around 43, but on this graph, it looks like it might be around 38. So when it's 400, this one looks like it might be This one here on the top looks like it might be around 43. This one looks like it might be 38. So let's see which one's correct. When it's 400, it should be 43 according to the data. So 443 was this one. This one's a definite possibility. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check one last graph. This graph isn't right because when this is 400 here, this is equal to about 38. So this is incorrect. Once again, I'm going to clean it up. We'll come back. So we have already eliminated two of these graphs. We eliminated this one because this point here at 150 wasn't correct, and we eliminated this graph over here because this point wasn't correct, which only leaves us one more graph to check. We always want to check all of the answer choices because sometimes they throw in the tricky Mickey and they'll get you. So what makes this graph not right if in fact we think that this is the right one? But we don't know which of these two is the right one. So now we got to check which one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what is the point that differs between them. Well, we have this point and this point, which are the same. This point and this point, which are the same. This point is 38 and this point is 38, which is the same. This point is about 32. This point is about 32, which is the same. I'm not seeing huge differences yet. But guess what? I just saw this little difference here. Do you see that little difference? That's hardly even noticeable, but you have to be careful because there are times where they will do that little difference to you. So once again, this little difference here, this one is just above the line. So when it's equal to 350, this one is equal to maybe 41. So let's look. When 350 equal to 41, do you see how that dot is just above the line? This one, however, is right on the line when it's 350. Oops, sorry. Is right on the line when it's 350. Perfectly on that line. That little difference between being just above in this one here and right on the line is what makes this graph a better graph and makes this graph wrong. I hope you understand that right there, that small difference could be the difference between getting this problem right or wrong on the STAAR test. They like to do little tricky things like that. So once again, this one here is the correct answer because when 350 is the hours of homework assigned, the number of English students is 41, which should be just above the 40 line, which is this line here. And surely enough, this dot is just above it. All right, so this is the correct answer. This one is wrong, this one is wrong, and this one is wrong. I hope that made sense, and I hope you're doing great so far. I hope you're having fun, and I will talk with you on the next video.